So you can see right here, we've got some pretty solid fingers, and I think all of these are gonna lay down, other than this one here at the top. That one, I think we're gonna have to go ahead and put a relief cut in and then trim out basically kind of like a V shape out of that somehow. Now your gloves should be gliding pretty freely across the material. If it starts to feel sticky, it means that the material's getting a little too hot, and you'll want to get the heat away from there. How's it going? My name is Brent from Encore PPF and Tint, and today we're going to be installing some paint protection film on the front bumper of this Chevy Corvette. This is a 2025, and this is the E-Ray, and we did remove the badge because it says it has inconsistent placement, which I would have just removed it anyway. So regardless of that, that was definitely coming off. And yesterday, I installed the kit that does not have the extra seam here. So it says it's a more difficult install and doesn't quite give us much coverage around the back here. That was all true. And it was incredibly difficult to stretch it down to this bottom right here. Messy, just real messy. I don't know. So I found one other problem in it up here, which is actually something that I saw on the peel board. And I was like, oh, I need to check that when I lay that on there. And I forgot to do that. And when I came in this morning, it had dried around it, and it was something underneath the paint protection film. That's super rare. It was right at the very beginning of the roll. And anyway, so I just ripped it off. I didn't really like the install anyway yesterday. So let's see how this one goes. So this one has a seam right here, which also then should give better coverage back in here. So let's go ahead and get moving on this. Since I've already wasted quite a bit of time, and wasted isn't really the right word, but I've already spent quite a bit of time on this bumper. And with all that being said, then I don't recommend the other pattern. Maybe at some point I'll post a video about that pattern and show you the difficulty of getting that to stretch down to this bottom. It seems like it could come down further and it would still give you the same amount of stretch and problems you're going to have with the fingers right in here. All right, so let's get this kind of lined up here as far as like this. And then we're gonna start right here. I added a couple more milliliters of slip, but it still seems a little bit sticky, so. So I'm up to 12 milliliters per gallon. All right, so what I want to do is get this line lined up and then here lined up. That is looking good. I'm going to go ahead and squeegee this out towards the headlight here. And then we want to work our way into the frunk area. And then what I want to do here, yeah, still pretty much just as tacky. You know, the other thing, we had this big finger here yesterday as well. I'm not really sure why. But let's go ahead, we'll go ahead and squeegee straight down right here. And this will give us something to stretch away from over to the other side. And then we'll come back and deal with all this later. Okay, we'll get all this broken loose. And then we're gonna stretch over to this headlight. We're basically gonna line this up just like we lined that side up, but we also need to make sure that this then comes out to like about the middle right there. And actually, I think what I did yesterday was I went ahead, I held this in place right with this body line, and then I squeegeed just this little section out, just like this. And then we made sure that I didn't have any of my handprints in this, keeping this stuck down. So something like that. Okay, now let's get over to here. That way we know that's lined up correctly, and as we pull, the pattern doesn't try to lift. Little piece of lint there. Okay, so we've got that lined up really well. I'm gonna go ahead and squeegee this part out and then over to the headlight. Okay, and then we need to get this part over like that, which kind of, okay, let's just lift all this back up here. Okay, I want to get this part lined up as well with this part all at the same time. Okay, so something like that. Get this squeegeed out. Kind of holding this corner in place because it is a pretty small corner up there. So it could, that just means it could slide around a bit, move around. Now let's go ahead and then we'll come down here. So same thing like we did on the other side. There we go, and then let's work on this here. So we know that these things, we see exactly where these relief cuts should be lining up almost with the very edge of the material there. Let's get rid of any pre-tacking that we could have here. Okay. And then let's take a look at what we've got up here. So looks like we're a little bit high. Let's see here. No, we're in pretty good shape. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead from here and just come over this way, like this, and then we'll bring this part this way, and then we'll take all of this up and out. Right in the middle there. Okay, got a little something stuck to the paint there. We'll get that out. Okay, there was a little piece of lint here that I just also pulled out. And I lifted this up to let all that water flush out, hoping it took that little piece of lint with it. And it's looking like it did. All right, so let's do this again. Okay, we'll take all this up and out. All right, and then make sure to go over this multiple times because you don't want to be leaving any moisture behind. It's really easy to do. The yellow hides that just as well as the white does. Okay, and then I'm going to double check this one more time. Okay, great. Now let's go ahead and work on getting all of this down. Same thing here, we'll squeegee across the bottom. Actually, there's a lot of moisture left in there, so let's get rid of some of that first. Okay, now we'll go ahead and work our way up. Okay, and now that most of that is up and out, we'll go ahead and go over this a second time, make sure that we're not leaving any moisture behind. And then we'll take the rest of this up. Little swipe and hold there. We're gonna need, that is gonna need some tack solution to stay down. Run up with my hand with that, and then we'll push all of this out. Want this edge to stay down, so I'm going to add a little tack in there and then hold that down. Now what we need to do is do the same thing where we double check all of this for any moisture left behind. All right, and then let's go ahead and get some tack in this part here. And then we'll do a swipe and hold on this. Okay. Let's also do a swipe and hold on this middle part here. And actually, let's put a little bit of tack in. Not really, just this part here. Okay. Let's go ahead and get a little bit of tack in this part, and then let's get this pushed down just over the edge here of this body line. Okay. And then we're not worried about anything below that. We really don't even want any tack in that because we want that to just kind of be floating there. And we'll come back and get that later once we take care of all this top part. All right, let's go ahead and put a mist on there. Now what we're going to do is stretch. We need to stretch this out, and we need to make sure that we get all the way up to here with this. So, and what I want to do is I want to put my hand here and get some good stretch right in here so that we get rid of a lot of this finger. Okay, I think we're a little low, so I need to let that go up a little bit more. We want to go up underneath the headlight just a little bit there. Okay, so that looks really good. Got rid of a lot of that finger, which is really nice. Let's lift this up. We're gonna pull down on that a little bit. Okay, and I think I'm gonna lift this back up. And what I'd like to see is this pattern go up a little bit higher underneath the headlight here. Okay, so just like that. And then let's get a little tack right here so you can see that it's already pre-tacking where my hands were. And so I'm able to just let go of that. Okay, and let's get this squeegeed out. Okay. Just breaking that loose where my fingers were pre-tacking that material down a little bit. As well as there was a little piece of lint trapped in there. And we'll go ahead and squeegee this out. Okay, then we'll go ahead and add some tack to this finger here, and we'll get this down. We want to pull this finger a little bit this direction to help break it up a bit. Because if you just take that and push it straight up, it's not going to go down. Okay, we got that tucked in underneath there really well. Okay, just keep working our way around here. Okay, this is all lined up really good up to about here, and then it starts to veer off a little bit, so we're gonna need a little bit of stretch this way, but let's lock this down up to this body line here. Okay, so we're gonna make sure we got everything squeegeed out. And let's get some tack in this edge. So this was popping up, so I went ahead and stuck my finger right over top of it after squeegeeing over it. And we'll hold that in place. Slide chomp all this down. Got a little bit of pre-tacking right there. So let's go ahead and fix that. Just reached in at the edge of the material, picked it up with my fingernail, and popped it loose. And then we can go ahead and squeegee that back down. Okay, looking good so far. All right, we get a mist on there, and then we'll pull this up because we know we're gonna have a little bit of pre-tacking somewhere. Okay, and then first things first, let's get this top lined up right here along the fender. So I'm gonna cut a little bit of tack right there, and then we're gonna stretch this up into place. And then we'll go ahead and squeegee this out. Okay, now what we're gonna do is stretch down into this corner So let's go ahead and get a little bit of tack on there. And let's go ahead and stretch down into place. That front needs to come down more than the back, so I'm pushing the front down more than the back. Okay, and I'm just checking this edge to see how it's supposed, what's it supposed to look like when it's done rolling around this edge a little. So right just to the edge. Okay, so I do need to bring it back just a tiny bit, although there is a body seam here a little bit. Hey.
This is the E-Ray.
Yeah. All right, we'll go ahead and tack this down. Okay. And then the rest of this is looking really good, so I'm going to go ahead and just tack all of that down right along the wheel well here. Okay, now let's go ahead and start working out here. To use it. All right, I gotta go back to recording.
All right, I'll see you later.
Okay, maybe I'll come over, walk over and see you once I get this bumper done.
All right, sounds good.
All right, see ya.
Bye, guys.
All right, so now we're gonna continue getting this down here. And then we're going to come work in all this area up here. Definitely starting to get some pre-tacking in here. Okay. So this bottom part here is where the other pattern had a ton of problems lining up. I mean, I don't know. It was just a nightmare, really, to try and get that to line up at all. So I'm not sure what exactly they wanted you to do with it, but it just wasn't working at all for me. I eventually got it, but it was a big fight. Okay, here's the smallest little piece of lint right here. Okay, so let's see what we can do here now with this. Okay, so that seems to be fitting pretty good, just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and squeegee some of this out, because I know that we're going to start getting a lot of pre-tacking back in here. Okay, and that looks good for now. And then let's go across here. A little mist on there, and we'll go ahead and try and get this part down here. Okay, so I went ahead and used my finger to push that down, but then we need to follow that right up with the squeegee, because the finger's not going to get everything pushed out. Okay, and I'm just double checking that, make sure got everything squeegeed out of it. That's looking good. Now I want this the relief cut here to push down. right now and stay down. Okay, we've got a little bit of a finger, you know, this extra material here. And so I'm just kind of trying to see when I push that out, how does that work? Does it actually go away? And what does this pattern want for stretch? And so this bottom looks like it's lining up really good now. I'm gonna go ahead and push this out up to about there. And then are we hanging over here on the bottom? No, it looks like we're lining up pretty good. So go ahead and hold those two spots in place, and we'll go ahead and squeegee this out. Okay, and then let's take the rest of this out here. Okay, so let's see what we can do now with this seam here. I really want this top part to be stuck down really well. That way we can kind of bump into it with this next piece here. Okay, we want this corner here to stay down. We got to be careful with these corners, because if we just do something like this, we might leave a finger on that corner, and then those are really hard to get to go away. And so what I'm doing now is just grabbing this piece of material and like stretching it upward. And you can see that it's helping us get rid of all this finger here. And helping us get a nice tight seam on this. Okay, now that that's in place, I'm going to hold that, and then we're going to squeegee this all out really well. Okay. Okay, there's a little finger at this end here, so I'm going to squeeze, or try to sneak a little tack in there. And then we'll go ahead and push that down. Okay, and then let's get the rest of this at least over the edge here. So we can do a swipe and hold. Double checking, make sure I got everything squeegeed out. Another swipe and hold here. Okay. A little bit of water right there, a little bit right there. Okay. All right, that is all looking really good now. And what should we do? Should we mess with this right now, or should we just go to the other side and get this part stretched into place on the other side? Since this is lower, it might be something we can just let kind of hang out here. Let's go get the part that's really out in the open. All right, first thing first, we've got to get this pulled back so we can get rid of this pre-tacking. Okay. Now what we need to do is, we've got a hard line to stretch from here because this has been drying for a while and this is real wet. So what we need to do is give ourselves about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch here. and get ourselves a new line to stretch from. That way we don't leave so much distortion when we pull away from this area. If you just go from that really hard line to the soft line and stretch, you're going to leave more of a distortion in this area. Okay, so now let's give that just a moment to start to set up a bit. Okay, now let's go ahead and get a little stretch on this. So again, we're trying to make sure we kind of get rid of some of that finger. And then we want this to go underneath the headlight a little bit. And we need this back edge to line up here. So that's looking really good. And again, we've got the same situation here. So let's go ahead, get a little tack in this. And then we're going to pull kind of back this way to just kind of straighten that back out so there's not so much tension in that. Okay, we'll squeegee out. Got a little thing right here. Stubborn. There we go. Okay, let's get this line back up here at the top. So right there, and then we'll go ahead and squeegee this out. Okay, just making sure that we got everything out of this. We're not leaving any moisture behind. Now let's go ahead and get rid of this finger and get this top down. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw a little tack in here. And I'm starting plenty low when I go to squeegee this up and into place to make sure that if any water had come down at all, that we're grabbing it and pushing it out the top. Okay, let's get okay, a little tack in here now. There's a tiny little dot there. I don't know. I get real particular. Tiny little black dot. tack in there again. And we'll try to get all this pushed down. Okay, great. Just kind of feeling for any water bubbles or anything. Everything's feeling really good. Now we need to get some tack up in this top part here. Roll this underneath the headlight. Basically just chomping this up in there. And then we'll use a slide chomp. Okay. There's a tiny little finger back in there. Same thing on this side here. We'll get, well, let's make sure we don't have any pre-tacking first. And then we'll go ahead and get this top corner here into place. Pull up right up to that body line. We'll get a mist in there. Then we'll get this stretched up into place here. There we go. Finally, get on out of there. Okay, a little bit of pre-tacking here. Alright, a little tack in that edge. Make sure that we're got the right hangover there. And let's go ahead and get rid of some of this. Bring this down. Okay. Alright, let's go ahead and get some tack in this bottom edge. Make sure we have the right hangover on the back, and we'll get this stuff lined up along the bottom. And we'll squeegee this out. Okay, a little bit more tack in that edge. We need to pull this way just a little bit to get this to line up. I didn't get that little hair out, I just moved it. Okay, now let's get some tack in here. And a little bit of stretch in order to get that to line up correctly. Making sure not to hang over that bottom edge. Right there. Now let's take a look and see what we're going to get for all this here. So let's bring this down. Okay, double checking for any pre-tacking. Let's go ahead and take this stuff out this direction. And then we'll take everything else out the front here. So let's see, what do we have for hangover? That's looking pretty good. I'm gonna put just a tiny bit of stretch on this. Okay, that looks really good. So I'm just gonna hold that right there. We're gonna go ahead and squeegee all of this out. Okay, a little tack in there. I'm going to go ahead and stretch it up again just a little bit. It'll give us a little bit of extra material up in here as well. Okay, and then let's just get over that edge. We'll do a swipe and hold. And then let's get this down here. Okay, I'm gonna have to go over this multiple times, make sure we get everything squeegeed out. Okay. Let's go ahead and get some tack in this. And we'll roll this edge over a little bit here. Okay, and now we can get this one pulled into place here. First things first, we want that to be stuck down really well in that corner. And then we're going to stretch up and line these up. Nope. Gotta make sure this corner's down. Okay, and then I'm just working my way across this seam here. And I want to try that one more time. See if I can get that a little bit tighter. Continuing to use my thumb here to push the two pieces together, and also making adjustments with my other thumb out here where I'm pinching the material. Okay, so just like that, and then let's get rid of this moisture underneath the material here. Okay, so we are getting a little bit of a finger on that. So let's see if we can get that down, because, you know, if you let those, if you leave those, it's a possibility they're going to be really hard to get rid of. So we want to make sure that goes down, and it does. Okay, good. Great. Now let's get rid of the rest of this slip solution under here. Okay, and I'm going to put a little bit of tack in this. And I'm going to pull this down. Okay, swipe and hold on the edge. Okay, now let's get some tack solution in here, and we'll do swipe and hold all the way up this. Okay, really all I'm looking for at this point is just to be over this edge here. Then we'll deal with wrapping that all the way around later. Okay, let's get this lifted up. Get rid of any pre-tacking, and then let's go ahead and lay this into place and see what we need to do to make sure it lines up correctly. I'm just going to line up this bottom and get it squeegeed into place. And then we'll work our way up from there. Okay, we're going to need some tack in here. Okay, that is starting to go back a little far and go underneath that plastic a little much. So I want to see if there's any way. First we need to get some slip in here. If there's any way that we can make it come forward a little bit. That actually puts a pretty good finger in it, doesn't it? Okay, let's go ahead, get tack in there. Well, actually that worked out good. Okay, so I just brought it forward a little bit, which then did make, you know, a little finger here, but we were able to push that out. Okay. I'm just trying to see what this wants here. So if it feels like I can actually pull this forward, so that kind of gets this back lining up a little bit better. Otherwise, I probably need to be this way just a little bit more. So let's just go ahead and do that. There we go. Now that's lining up much better. Okay, that bottom line's looking really good. Okay, now let's squeegee this stuff up and out. Okay, and that's gonna need a little tack in order to stay down. Hey.
Something stinks.
Huh?
Something stinks.
Oh yeah, window film removal.
Oh yeah. Sometimes.
Okay. Trying to get this back edge lined up here. And we're gonna just try squeegeeing away from that. Little dot right here. There's a tack in there. A little bit of mist on top. Let's push this out. And actually, before we do that, let's get slip back in here. This bottom is starting to go off alignment, so we want to get that lined up really well, which will also help us get some stretch in here for this extra material. I swear I'm putting so many little black dots in this today. There we go. All right, let's get this bottom pulled down. Get this material aligned here. So I'm basically pushing it right into that corner, and then I'm releasing the tension on this part so that it can stretch back up and make that bend there. Okay. Oh, I popped it up. Oh well. All right. Let's go ahead and get rid of some of this first then. Well, if we can. Go on and get this bottom corner down again. Man, that's tough. Your finger keeps slipping off the edge. So close to that edge. Okay. Let's get some of this all squeegeed out here. And then let's get some tack in here and get this wrapped around this edge. There we go. Nice. Okay, I'm gonna put a little bit of tack now. Let's see, let's get this around here first. Okay, that lays down pretty good, so we're gonna go ahead, squeegee this out. Kind of a funky angle there, so get some good pressure on it and make sure you're getting even pressure on it. I'm hanging off a little bit off the back there, which means that's going to need to be trimmed off later. Okay, that's squeegeed out all the way up now. Just double checking everything. Okay, and then up here, it's hanging, let's get you in there. Get some tack in there. And let's roll that over. Okay, now what I'm going to do is dry that out a little bit. And make sure that stays down. Great. Pull this up, get rid of pre-tacking. And let's see what we need here to get over to here and have this line up correctly. So needs a little bit of tug. Oh, there's a dot right there. I swear, this yellow car is gonna be the death of me for dots. There's one more right there. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm gonna get just a little bit of tack in there, and let's get this stretched into place to where this part's lining up real good, and then let's tack this down right here. Okay, also keep an eye on your bottom edge here. This needs to go up just a little bit, so right there. And we'll go ahead and squeegee this out. And then we'll start taking this back here. Okay, this is gonna need some tack in it. Well, all of that could use some tack, looks like. A lot of interesting little angles in here to make sure you're keeping good pressure on. And that you're getting you're getting the squeegee to conform into those recesses and things on those different angles to make sure that you're getting everything squeegeed out so you're not leaving moisture behind. All right. So same thing, we're gonna run up the back side here. I got an air pocket right here. Huh, does not want to come out. Stuck in there already. You know, that is one nice thing about the yellow, is that those little like air pockets like that they really stand out big time. So unlike white, where they kind of hide in there, you're not going to be able, those are not hiding in here. And the good news for that is that you see them before you leave them. Or you see them when you leave them. That way you can get them right out. Okay, so all the way up. Just make sure this is all down here. Now let's do the same thing we did before and get this front corner down, because you can see when this tries to lay in place that it leaves a big gap right here, and obviously that means it needs some stretch down. Let's get some tack in here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and line that up and squeegee this out. Okay. Hey, I had to pull this off yesterday or today and put it back on, so basically just start it over again. Alright, so let's go ahead and squeegee all of this over and out. Alright, just double checking. Sure we're not leaving anything behind here. Okay, let's get this bottom back down here. Okay, all the way up. And then let's wrap this around now. Alright, a little tack in there, and we'll go ahead and push all this down. Oh, that wraps around a little bit. Maybe that's supposed to stick to that. I'm not sure. It does. Huh. Interesting. Okay. So maybe it's not hanging over that edge, really. Maybe it's supposed to do that. Okay, let's get this squeegeed out here. Just trying to get that to round over that edge, and then we'll get pushed down up here on the top. Okay, we'll double check this edge, make sure we didn't leave anything underneath there. Great. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and push this down and this down, and then do this seam here, and then I'm gonna push that other part down by myself. So, but let's go ahead and get all of this down here. So you can see right here, we've got some pretty solid fingers, and I think all of these are gonna lay down, other than this one here at the top. That one, I think we're gonna have to go ahead and put a relief cut in and then trim out basically kind of like a V shape out of that somehow. But I think all the rest of this will go down without a problem, even including up here. So let's go ahead and get on that. Let's get some tack in here. Okay, just rolling this around and pushing it back towards that grill. All right, so that went really well. So right here is really the only problem area that we're gonna have. So let's see what we can do with this now. Okay, so something like that, and then we're gonna go ahead, I'm gonna push one side down, then we'll put the other side over top of it, and then I'll trim that later. We need a little bit of tension because I left a little finger here at this end, and we don't want that. Okay. Okay, so that looks really good, and then you can see that we're just gonna have to trim just like that, and that'll get all that down and get us have some great coverage there, or full coverage really. Okay, let's go ahead and get all this to roll over now. And let's see, what kind of tension do we have there? It's going.
Better than yesterday?
Yeah, just still a solid pain. Okay, we got that down. Now let's work across the front here. All right, gonna go ahead and pull this back. We'll get some tack in here. Make sure we're pulled up all the way to the body line there. Okay, this, because of this bow in it right here, I'm gonna put just a little bit of tension on it down, and that'll help lay that down nice and flat so we can squeegee this out. Okay, and then we'll roll this under. Okay, we're good. Okay, go ahead and get the rest of this down here. There's a couple little fingers popping up. Okay, and then this over here is wanting to pop up again. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go right through this and put a little relief cut in that. And then we'll push this back down, and that's going to keep that from popping back up. There's definitely was a lot of tension on it right there, so I could see why it would want to continue to release. Okay, and then we need to make sure that this is coming straight down without any fingers in it. So let's put a little tension on it. And I'm going to come this way a little bit with it at first, and then we'll let it relax and go back this way. So it's nice and straight, so we can bring these two together as well as we can. Okay, now let's leave this one up, and then let's get the rest of this down. Okay, so we got a good sized finger here, so what we're going to want to do is you break that up. Okay, and I'm just going to double check this and make sure we're not leaving any moisture up above here. Get a little bit more tack in this. And let's take this down and do a swipe and hold at the edge. Okay, and then we can roll this under now. And actually, I left a tiny little bit of air right there. Okay. Let's dry some of that out. See if we can keep it from popping back up. Give us our best odds. Even if it does pop up, I'm not really worried about it. Once this dries out, it'll push right down. This came back up right here, so it's just little fingers. That's no big deal at all. All right, let's get this seam lined up really good now. Get some tack in there. So I'm using this finger to kind of pull the material until it's like overlapping a little bit, and then releasing it. And then we're just working our way down. Getting a nice tight seam there. And left a little bit of a distortion right there, so I'm gonna lift this back up. I'm gonna go for just trying to get some slip in there. Okay, here we go. Okay. Oh heck, you guys can stick around if you want. Okay, and because this was still like this, it left a little bit of a distortion right there because I didn't pull this all the way up to the body line. So I'm going to just pull it up to the body line, and that'll get rid of that distortion. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, it's just too much finger to try and get rid of. All right, well, let's get this top all wrapped into the engine, or into the engine compartment. So I like to wrap these when they're wet like this versus dry. So I just put some tack solution on there. And we'll go ahead and start rolling this over. Alright, so we want to make sure we've got the tack solution off the top. Let's put some Freshy Fresh in here. Alright, so this one we can pretty much just roll right over. Just make sure you're coming over this edge here when you're doing this. See how I'm pulling the squeegee back this way? That way we make sure and get everything off that very edge. Now for this part, what I'm going to do is go ahead and take my finger and I'm going to roll that over, because there's going to be some stretch in there, and if we don't hold that down, this material is just going to continue to want to pop up. And then we'll go ahead and get that squeegeed out in there. And then we'll work our way away from this. in both of these corners here, that one and this one, it's popping up. And so, you know, you could just wait for that to dry out a bit, or you can put a little slit in it here. I mean, there's no reason that shouldn't have a slit in it back there to help it relieve some of that tension so it doesn't just continuously keep popping back up. Okay, and then this one here. Great. This one's still coming up a little bit towards the top, but we'll just wait for that to dry out and then push that right down. All right, so let's see what we can do in here now. So this material is going past this black plastic, so we're gonna trim some of this off here. So we're gonna, let's see if we can, let's score this material. Okay. Then I'm gonna get some tweezers to grab a hold of that, because I'm just not, well, maybe I can get my thumbnail in it. Yeah, it's just really, okay, gotta get tweezers. All right, that did not work. So actually, I'm just gonna tuck that way down in there, because this is not riding against it. It's gonna be just fine in there. Perfect. Okay. Now these ones here, we're gonna go ahead and just, I'm basically gonna go between the bumper and that black grill part. It's not really black, it's like a graphite or something, and cut that off. Now we need to come across here over to this. Gotta get my eyeballs on. I'm gonna get a new blade first. Okay, and then we'll pick this up off of here until we get to our cut line. There we go. Okay, now you can see we're bumping into this right here. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing where I go in between the two, and we'll trim that material off. Perfect. We'll push that down. Okay, and then you can see I just went over that with my finger and pushed that down. As that dries a little bit more in there, that'll go down and stay down. I mean, it's already staying down, so if it pops up at all, we'll get it during the heat seal process. Okay, that looks really good. All right, let's go ahead and get this middle piece here put in. Okay. So just want to make sure we're not running over that edge. Okay, so right there, and then I'm just pushing this into the other piece there. So we're getting a nice tight seam. Okay, and I want this to dry just a little bit. Start really tacking down. See if I can sneak any tack in that very edge. Probably not, but give it a shot. Okay, so now we need to pull away from that to help get rid of this finger here. Oh. Okay, just make sure we're lined up real good. So that's looking good. Okay, so go to right there. And then we need to stretch the other side into place before we, oh here, hang on. Let's get this finger down first. All right, now we need to stretch over to this side and get this into place. Because if we start working our way across, we don't know how we're going to line up here at the end. We may have too much, we may not have stretched enough. So we need to start over here and then work back out to the middle there. Okay, so let's get a little tack in here. Okay, we'll get this very corner down. And then we'll work our way up. Just working my way up this seam, making sure it's nice and tight. Okay, we need a little slip in here. Tack solution was getting to be a little much back there. It's just immediately tacking. Okay, now we can pull this down into place here. We'll get this lined up. Okay, we're gonna end up with the same finger. So because there's a lot of stretch in here right now, because we pulled across, what we can do is put some stretch here and it'll relieve some of the tension out here. But I mean, we don't really care about relieving the tension. We're just gonna move some of this stretch and hide it over here, basically. Uh-oh. Little piece of debris came out from underneath this. And really, these fingers are happening because when I stretch this bottom over, if this bottom was more straight, we wouldn't get these fingers. That's from the tension that I put on this in order to get this into place. Caused me to end up with these fingers here. Okay, let's get this down now. Okay. Okay, now let's get all this lined up and squeegee it out. So right there, looks great. Okay, we got a couple little pieces of dirt here. It's clear though, so. Okay, let's get this line back up. Good, got those gone. Okay, get some tack in there, and then we'll go ahead and squeegee those edges out one more time. Okay, and then let's work over here. So I'm just riding this bottom edge. Okay, right like that. Go ahead and squeegee out the center on this one. A couple little things under here. Those are clear. I don't know what that's different than what the black dots we've been getting. Not sure what that is. Okay. Okay, right there. Again, let's go along the center here. And then this stuff, oop, I moved it all. Okay, let's get a little tack in this edge. We'll come forward first with the tack. Swipe and hold on this little guy. Okay. Let's get some more tack in these two. Swipe and hold those. Alright, great. Now let's get some tack in this back edge. you're starting low enough, you're getting pushing all the moisture out. You don't want to start too high and trap moisture in there. Okay. All right, so you could, I don't know if you could see that, but this is hanging up. We're actually bumping into that, this piece here. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do for that is we're gonna come across the bumper right here, and then we're gonna go in between the two. Like that. Having a hard time getting a hold of that. It's a tiny little sliver. I just have to get it broke loose though, because it should be cut all the way through. Yep. Okay, perfect. And then we'll tear this up this way. Great. I'm gonna run this in here and dry that edge out. Okay. And then this here where I said it might possibly not need to be trimmed, it does need to be trimmed. It's not, I mean, some of it is actually sticking down back in there. Maybe we could make it stick back in if we heat it up. But this side, there's a pretty distinct, like, you can feel my finger, can you hear it popping off of that? There's a pretty distinct line right there. It's like a seam in the bumper from the mold. I think we could just put some heat on that and push it down. It's gonna go down and stay down. Okay, let's dry out this front edge. All right, so this sat overnight and all the edges are completely dry on this bumper. So let's go ahead and get to heat sealing these. Let's get this gun down to between 650 and 750. And we'll go ahead and start heat sealing this. So just make sure that you're, start somewhere and be, okay. Am I talking? Oh my goodness. All right. Don't miss any spots on the bumper when you're heat sealing. So start somewhere and work your way around. Now your glove should be gliding pretty freely across the material. If it starts to feel sticky, it means that the material's getting a little too hot and you'll want to get the heat away from there. Okay, and then with these seams here, you always want to go with the seam when you're pushing them down, not against them. Okay, and then what we've got here is this little bit of material that was hanging over that edge, but it feels like there's stuff for it to stick to back there. So I'm going to go ahead and just heat that up and then wrap that around like so. Okay, and we'll just keep working our way around. Just be methodical about this process. That's getting a little warm. I can feel the glove starting to stick to it a little. Not gliding so well. Okay, another seam here. All right, and then we'll go ahead and get this wrapped around. So I'm going to warm that up. A little bit more heat on the area where it starts to not completely hang over. So there's an area here where it starts to not hang over. So it's hanging over way down here, but then not hanging over way up here. And so as you get to that area where it's transitioning from hanging over to not hanging over, those areas really don't like to stick because there's like not enough for them to stick to. So we need to get a little bit of extra heat on that and push that down. Oh, and I left an air pocket right there. Come on, Brent. Let's see if we can get that to push out with some pressure. Yep. Perfect. Well, perfect would have been not having that in the first place, but it's perfect as it's going to get. I mean, it's great. It's gone. But it would have been better not to have done that in the first place. All right, I'm just kind of using this tool for the areas I can't reach with my fingers back in there. Because some of this is going back and just barely behind this grill here. It's really just riding right down the edge. Okay. Come back to the bottom here, work our way around. So you could see here that I'm kind of going back and forth like this, and what that is that there's a little bit of this edge and this edge that aren't completely stuck down. And so if you just go like this over some of those edges, if they're not fully stuck down, what can happen is that you basically eventually push a finger, you stretch the material because it's very malleable right now. You stretch the material into a little finger and then you'll fold the finger over on itself. So by going back and forth like this, you're not pushing so much material and then creating a finger that you push over and fold over onto itself. So, I mean, best case scenario is to have everything completely stuck down before you start heat sealing, but some of these little edges where they're basically just contouring just a tiny bit over a tiny bend, it's like impossible to get those down without getting the heat on them because they just don't want to stick. Okay, we'll keep working our way around here. I got a hole in my glove. Need to get a new glove out. My finger's poking out. Okay, and then I'm gonna save this part when we lower the car down. So let's go ahead and get the rest of this in here. So now these areas here, so there is that seam coming across right here. And these areas at the end of the seam, you want to make sure that those are completely pushed down before you start putting heat on them. So if there's anything popping up at all, you want to put some pressure on it and get it to stick down before you start adding heat. Otherwise, you're going to create whatever little finger is popping up. You're going to damage it and it's never going to go down. Okay. All right, and then we'll work our way up right here. All right. All right, got a little finger popping up right here. So let's go ahead and get that down. And then we can put some heat on it. Great. Okay, that's going back there pretty far where I can't get my finger, so we'll go ahead and use, let's see here, way back in there. We're gonna take this tool and just go back behind the grill, basically in between the grill and the paint, and push that area down. I wonder what this is for, this rubber piece right here. Oh, maybe it opens the hood. Oh, it does something. Huh, maybe that's to open the frunk. Okay, so we've got some fingers here. So the fingers, you want to get those pushed down first, and then we'll put some heat on them. Because the problem with putting heat on those before they're pushed down is that they're going to take the heat differently, and so they're going to get really the material is going to get super hot because it can't transfer that heat to the bumper. So you run a real risk of when you're trying to push it down that those fingers are just going to push right over on themselves. And then that's something that you can't really recover from. You have to cut that area out. Okay, let's get this here. You can see they missed some of this area with the painting. There and there. Huh. Little finger down there, just like we had on the other side. We'll put a little heat on it. Or we'll push it down first, and then we'll put some heat on it and push it down. There's a little dot right there, something, a little speck. Had a silver line around it, so I went ahead and just heated it up, and then I'm pushing it down with my fingernail to get rid of the silver around it. It's super minor. Okay, I'm getting off getting off the bumper parts that we're supposed to be working on here. Okay, and for the areas I can't reach, get back in here with this now. There we go. Work on this seam and this relief cut here. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and push all this down now. Put some pressure on that very edge. Can't really get in there with that squeegee, so I'm going to use this one here and get some pressure on the edge. It's just real tight right up against that grill, which is nice. It's just hard to get with your finger then. Okay, here there's a little bit hanging off this top edge, so we're going to go ahead and wrap that around to the top. Great. Okay, so I think we made it all the way around this bumper now. Now we just have to get this top section here, so we'll lower this down. Alright, so I've got to work, this material goes in just underneath the headlight just a tiny bit. So let's go ahead and push that down back in there to make sure that everything is down first. Okay, and then now we'll shoot some heat in there. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and push that edge down. Great. Just making sure, I'm spending a little bit of extra time here making sure that this area here stays down. There's a decent amount of tension on the material right there. Okay, now let's work our way up around the headlights. Across the top here. All right, and then now into the frunk area. All right, we're just heating this up and pushing it down. Now there is a little bit of a lip in here where it dives in a little and then comes back out. So what I'm doing is pushing out the air out of those areas first. Oh, that one's trapped now. I don't know if you can even see that, but it's almost out. Just keep pushing on it. There it goes. Okay. Let's check these ones now. Okay, that one's stuck in there. Okay, there we go. So the one that's stuck in there, I'm gonna have to hit that with a needle. There's no way around that. So, or a syringe. Okay. Right here, frost at the fender. Again, spending a little bit of extra time in this area here. Make sure this material is down and stays down. Okay, and then I'm going to take this again, go over this area, make sure everything is down, and then we'll put some heat on it. Okay, then we'll take this tool and go over this. You definitely want to keep it at an angle like this when you're going over this, because you don't want to bunch that edge up. It's really hard to tell if you're bunching an edge up with something like this, because you can't feel it obviously like you can with your finger. If you do too much like this or get ahead of yourself like this, you're really asking for trouble. Alright, so let's get to this little air pocket here. So we've got a nice, good sized little air pocket. We're gonna go in right at the edge of it into the air pocket. Then we'll push down and we'll pull the needle out, or the syringe, I guess. Beautiful. And then we'll go over that, work it, make sure it's down. Okay. And I think, let's see, was there another one? Nope, we're good. All right, terrific. Well, that was the full process of installing paint protection film on the front bumper of this 2025 Corvette E-Ray. So I think I'm gonna say that the E-Ray is definitely more difficult than some of the other models. This bumper took a pretty long time to get on there, and it had some some decently tough spots. Although I did have to do it twice because of that first pattern. I really didn't like the fitment on it. So I cut out the one with the relief cut here, which worked out way better. Yeah, so fun bumper. charge accordingly. All right. Well, appreciate you guys taking a look at this. If you found anything helpful, like, subscribe, comment. We'll see you guys on the next one.